Hi everyone, it's Sandra here, back for another great wellness topic. Our topic for today is going to be another kind of emotional emotional health type of topic, and it's going to be around positivity and what that does for us and kind of how to pull things around from being, a negative situation into positive. So it's the end of the year. The holidays are definitely upon us. So for some of us, this is just naturally a really positive, joyous time of year. But for some people, it's exactly the opposite. This time of year in particular can be really challenging. And it can be challenging for a lot of different reasons. So some of it might be family related. You see a lot of family, maybe extended family, in-laws, things like that. And that can add a lot of stress depending on what those relationships are like for you. Financial stress is another one this time of year. So whether it's, kind of maybe going a little bit overboard with gifts and getting yourself into trouble that way, or just not having the means to get those things that you maybe want for friends and family this time of year. Another big one that really impacts a lot of people is the death of a loved one. So even if it's not something that happened recently, it could have been years ago that you've lost somebody, but this time of year really brings out those emotions again. And, it's that idea of, the empty chair at the table and really missing them this time of year. And that can bring on a lot of, negative emotions. It can bring on depression or just overall negativity. So, there's a lot of different reasons why we might have, some negativity in our lives. So that's why I want to focus today's topic on positivity and how we can kind of turn some of those things around. And I'm certainly not saying that, just think positive and everything in your life will be just fine, because that's obviously not true. And that's not really a healthy way of dealing with a lot of things. But I think there are a lot of situations in our lives where we can just kind of take a little bit of a different spin, change our attitude just a little bit about things, and really help us to be more positive and then ultimately happier with things in our lives. So in order to be positive, we really have to be able to think beyond just the current situation that we're in. So it might be something negative, and that's legitimately something that you should be thinking about and focused on and, trying to improve. But what's really important then is how you handle those negative situations. So, if we choose to just focus on the negativity, that's all that we're going to see. If you don't even try to look at something from a positive perspective, put a little bit of a different lens on it, you're always going to be in that rut. You're always going to be negative and you're going to be unhappy. That's going to impact not only your mental, your emotional health, but it's also going to impact your physical health as well. So that's why this topic, to me anyways, is so important. So I think it's really important to, kind of instead of having this why me type of attitude when you're in that situation, is really try to pull something positive out of the situation. So, sometimes you might have to stretch quite a bit, but really trying to think like, okay, what was something good that came out of this? Or, despite so much negativity in this situation, there was one really positive thing, and focusing on that and really making that your focal point for things. So, I think sometimes that's hard, and obviously it depends on the situation. And it's not to say that you can't think about all of those other negative aspects, and oftentimes you do, and you really have to deal with that negativity. And it's okay to, kind of just sulk in it or be depressed for a certain amount of time, or, whatever it is. Then at a certain point, we have to kind of take ourselves out of that negativity and really focus on something a bit more positive. So, one way to do that is, take a lesson out of whatever that situation is. I'm sure we've all, heard that saying, there's a lesson in everything, right? So that could be, in work situations, it's also in our personal lives. So if you really think about, okay, what has this bad situation taught me and taught me to do better in the future, you can really start to see that negative situation as something positive that is helping you down the road. It's helping you to deal with similar things that will likely happen again in our lives in a better way. And once you can deal with one situation more positively, you're going to be able to deal with the next one more positively. And that gives you that confidence. Each time you come across a negative situation like that, it becomes this really nice snowball effect of positivity. So kind of keep that in mind. Another way of looking at things when we're kind of in these situations is, instead of saying, gosh, why does that happen to me? But think of it as something happening for you. So it's not this why me, why'd this happen to me, but wow, you know what? This happened for me. And try and think of what that is depending on what that situation is. So, maybe it's an ex-boyfriend, girlfriend who broke up with you. And in that moment, it's like such a grief and such, sadness and depression and things like that. But you know what? You probably never would have met your partner that you're with now, and you might have been stuck in that crappy relationship because you may not have been the one to ever end it. So kind of think of it for, okay, gosh, you know what? In the moment, it felt like, gosh, all these bad things are happening to me, but really that happened for me because it allowed me to now have the life that I have now. Even kind of a more somber type of situation with maybe the death of a loved one, and obviously there's gonna be a lot of grief initially involved in that, and you certainly have to take that time to grieve. But once you're past that phase, it's really thinking about that person's legacy. What have they left behind, and how can you continue their legacy? What would make them really proud, and how can you live on their spirit and share their spirit with other people? So I think that's always a really nice way of handling a negative situation like that. Another way to stay in kind of this positive mentality is to have an attitude of gratitude. So really thinking about things that you're grateful for and thinking about them every single day. So, maybe it's first thing in the morning and that gets your day started off on a really positive note, or maybe it's to round out your day, as you're settling in for the evening, really thinking about what are all the things that I'm grateful for today. And it could be big things, it could be little things. But I think focusing on that, you can't help but be happy, right? If it's something that you're grateful for, it's something positive, it's something good. And they say it's not necessarily happy people who are grateful, but it's people who are grateful who tend to be the happiest. So kind of keep that in mind as you think about this idea of gratitude. One other thing that I want to kind of focus on with positivity is trying to find balance in your life. And I think that's really key. And I know it's obviously very challenging for all of us. And, it might be a balance of, work and life, or it might be family versus personal time, whatever those different balances are that you're looking for in your life. But I think if we can't find that balance, it's going to be really hard for us to be happy in our lives. And I think a key to finding that balance is prioritization. So, we probably think about prioritizing different tasks when we're at work, and, this is what has to get done first. This is, the most pressing thing on my list, and then you kind of go down from there. But do we ever do that in our lives holistically? So if you think about, okay, our, jobs are obviously something that's important. If you have family, a spouse, a partner, friends in your life, yourself, your own health, all of those things have different degrees of prioritization in your life. And that's going to change over time, even from day to day, month to month, year to year. Your priorities are going to have to shift over time. you're going to maybe have times where you have to focus on you and your health more, and you might not have as much time to be able to focus on other people. But then there might be other times where your focus is more on your career, and that's what takes priority, and some other things maybe kind of fall down your priority list. What's really important though there is to create those priorities and really make sure that they are your true priorities in your heart. So I think sometimes for people this can be really hard because we feel like everything is really important and nothing can fall off the list and everything has to get done. Well, we all only have 24 hours in a day, and not everything can get done necessarily in that time. So really think about what are your priorities in this moment and what really has to happen or what really has to get done now versus being pushed off. So, simple ones I know sometimes people really get caught up on is like, your errands or your home staying clean or things like that. But you know what? If it's a matter of my kitchen being clean versus I get to spend time with my kids, that's an easy one. But I think sometimes it's not necessarily that you're sacrificing time with your kids, but a lot of times you're sacrificing things that will help with your overall health. So you might be staying up late to do something else instead of getting that sleep that you really need to stay healthy. So kind of keep that in mind and try and make sure that things are in balance as much as possible. Now, there are going to be times where we are out of balance. That's just inevitable. But what we have to do is make sure that that's not for any really extended period of time. So sometimes, our career is gonna have to take a little bit more of priority and other things kind of, get a little bit off balance. Other times our family is taking priority and other things get off balance. But as long as nothing is way off balance for too long, I think it's okay. And then eventually you kind of get it back together. So I would love to hear your thoughts in terms of how you stay positive and how you kind of keep that positive mental attitude. And even this idea of gratitude. I'd love to hear what you all think about that. And if you have any gratitude practices that you would like to share, definitely comment below and share with us. We'd all love to learn. So thanks so much. We'll see you next time.